vocational training, and this is one I'm eager to learn more about. So with that, I would like to welcome Joyce Marshall, and she was Stand Up for Children?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yes. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll shift gears into something we feel a lot more positive about. So this is entirely different, and again, I hope this is something that you all feel this is a great thing that we can do. Joy Marshall, I am working on ballot measure 98, and I live in Eugene, but I've come down and talked to a lot of people in Cottage about this. And this is the ballot measure to restore vocational education to our high schools. And now we call it career and technical education, because it does include the old vocational education like we had in my generation, right? We still need auto mechanics, even though repairing cars is very different nowadays than in my day. We still need welders. We still need electricians. We need skilled laborers. Also, we need what we call career and technical education. So there's a lot of good jobs that are not something that you need to go to university for, right? But there's computer programming and computer coding, and there is 3D printing, and there are a lot of healthcare professions jobs that are growing and expanding, and there's good opportunities, and they're good wage jobs, but we're not giving people the training and the opportunities for them. High school should be the place where people, they may not exactly know when they're 18 what they want to do for the rest of their lives, but where they have the opportunity to try out some different professions and for some of them to get some real work skills and to be able to go right into the workforce. We're not providing that to our high schools now, and we have to do that, or we're not going to turn around our high school dropout rate. So really, I'm going to give you some more details, but that is really just the core of what we're trying to do, is make sure that we give students a useful high school education and that they finish and graduate. And we really, really want to raise the high school graduation rates. In fact, I was just speaking earlier and saying, why do we have this bad high school graduation rate? Well, really, we used to offer a lot of these classes, and we're not offering them now. And now, for so many students who are in high school, they feel like I either have to go towards a four-year university or nothing. They feel like that is their only option. And so for those students, they start to check out, and then what happens? They don't follow. Of the 50 states, where do you think Oregon ranks in our high school graduation rate? And we're not number one, I'll tell you that.
It's about 50, isn't it?
We're 47. We're 47. Yeah, we're 47. This is terrible. We should be acting like our heads are on fire. We should think, what can we do about this? And it's interesting because you were saying, we need the legislature, and we've actually gone to the legislature. We've made this case, and so we weren't just jumping to the ballot measure by any stretch, because I think you're right. We've shown them the proof, and the proof is quite powerful. Students who are taking vocational and career and technical education, they find it relevant. They can sink their teeth into it, right? They graduate 15 points higher than the rest of the students, right? So our graduation rate is 72%, but kids who are in vocational and career and technical education, 87%. That's enormous. And it's not for more money. It's the same amount of money, but they're really successful, and they're going on to either a workforce, or if they're going to college, they know what they're going for. So we have the proof, but we haven't been able to get the state to step up, and that's why we need this ballot measure. I'm going to tell you a story. There's a student I met from Springfield High School, and she's given me permission to share her story. Her name is Leah. When she was a freshman in high school, she was kind of lost. Nobody in her family had gone to college. She didn't feel that interest, or she didn't feel like she was on a college path. What am I doing in high school? She starts skipping class. She starts feeling overwhelmed, and she has it in her mind, the day I turn 16 years old, I'm out of here, right? So her counselor said, I've got to give this student a more different type of class. I'm going to put her in a hands-on class. And they had their opening in small engines. So he said, Leah, I'm going to give you small engines. And she said, whatever. Anybody here have a teenager? Whatever. I have a 16-year-old, so I know this quite well. She shows up at small engine class. She goes, well, I'll give it a try. And the very first day she thinks, well, this is different. I'm not sitting in a room being lectured at, I'm standing up and doing something. And she gets intrigued. She starts going. Within a couple of weeks, she's very engaged. And she realizes that if she wants to keep this as an elective, she better go past her other classes. So she went and she finished all her incompletes. She got her grade point up to a 3.5. And the auto teacher said, you're pretty good. Why don't you take, the next auto class? Well, by the time she's a sophomore, she just decided she wants to be an auto mechanic. Fast forward, she just started her senior year. She's one of 2 girls in advanced autos, and you know what she's going to want to do after high school? She wants to go to college and become an engineer. So in a couple years, she went from dropout to auto mechanic, and now she's going to become an engineer. And this is the kind of story I hear all the time. This is going to happen to our students if they're given these opportunities. I was meeting with this awesome educator in Grants Pass, and he started a program where every student and every high school student gets access to an employer they connect with, and hopefully more than one in their high school career. So they do a job shadow, they learn work ethic, they have to show up to work on time, and they start to try different careers, if it's healthcare or if it's agriculture, because there's a big agriculture sector there. So Measure 98 will require districts to expand their career and technical education programs for what works in that community, for what works in Cottage Grove. That's why the Cottage Grove School Board endorsed this measure and the Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce, right? Because they know it's good for students and they know it's good for the economy. So this is, that story I just think really says it in a nutshell. It really keeps kids in school and then it gets them to their next step. Oh, and this person in Grants Pass, he was saying, once students finish this program where they've tried different jobs and they've had exposure to the workforce, when they're 18, a lot of them know just what they want to do when they grow up. But a lot of them don't still. They're still 18, right? They're still, don't tell them, they're still not that smart. Right? Don't tell my kid I said that. But they know, he said they know how to navigate those decisions and they're not going to just stumble through. They know what they're doing. Not only are our students dropping out, but a lot of them who are kind of staggering across the finish line, 1/3 of our students in Oregon go to community college, right? But they're not set up for success. And what's happening, and this is astonishing, is that they have to take remedial classes, even just to take the first level of credit-bearing classes. In other words, they're paying money to take remedial English or remedial math or both before they can start taking anything towards their degree or their license. So that's another reason that we really have to focus on high school and getting students ready. And so most of Measure 98 is really to expand career and technical education. But also it's to expand college readiness, because we can't keep sending students to community college just to have them drop out. That is not going to work. Now, I've talked a lot about it from the student's perspective, but again, it's also a workforce issue. If we don't train our workforce, our economies aren't going to grow. So one more story. This is again Eugene, just because that's where I'm from. So there's a local company called Lunar Logic, and they're one of those real job creators, right? The real local folks. They have 54 employees, and she said to me, I have 12 job openings right now, and these are jobs that start at $20 an hour and up, okay? So they're good paying jobs. That's a starting wage. Can you imagine being 18, right? And starting at that wage? She said, I have 12 jobs right now that I cannot fill. And she said, I could hire someone right out of high school if they'd only had 2 years of computer coding classes. I'd hire them right out of high school. That kind of job would keep a lot of students in high school, right? Because they'd feel, oh, it's technology, that's how young people navigate the world. They'd feel it's a living wage. For a lot of young people who don't see the purpose of high school, that gives them a purpose. So this firm has endorsed Measure 98 because she said we need to expand this opportunity for all students. So that's an example of how our lack of vocational and career and technical ed is also hurting our local community's ability to grow, our local economies. That's why a lot of the trade unions and the electricians have endorsed this as well, because we need to be training people to do those kind of jobs. That is really the gist of it. And as I said, we also, through Measure 98, there would be an $800 per high school student funding given to every district. Now, $800 per student doesn't sound like a lot of money, but every high school that we've met with said we could turn around our dropout rate with that money. It might be $500,000 a year for that high school or $1 million. but it's not a huge ticket item by any stretch, and the state can do it. There's no new taxes involved. The state can do it if they finally prioritize vocational ed. So that's why we push this, and that's why we're doing this ballot measure. The districts will get money, but it will be very clear where they must spend the money. And yet, also, each district is going to be different because the career and technical ed that they want to offer in Portland isn't going to be the same as in Klamath. And so there's that flexibility as well. So, yes, yeah.
You've told some stories, but I have to admit I am ignorant of 98. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you...
So it's a ballot measure that, thank you, just to be clear, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. It's a ballot measure that would require the state to give $800 per high school student to each district.
Where does that $800 come from?
It comes from the state general fund. So the state general fund is growing by 9%. And this would take 15% of that new money and require us to prioritize career and technical ed.
Now, is this a change to the Constitution?
No, it is not.
Okay.
It's not constitutional. Because someday, right, we have recessions, and then we're going to have that flexibility in the budget, and then the budget economy will come back. We actually think this will help make the economy a lot stronger. So there's flexibility in the budget if there was a recession, but no. There's going to be $1.6 billion in new funding in the general fund, and this is about $300 million of that. $294 million of that $1.6 billion. Pardon me?
Does that 1.6 billion come from Measure 97?
No, this is complete. We have nothing to do with Measure 97. We don't have a position on it, and we talked about this long before we even knew 97 was happening. We knew we needed to restore vocational education. I want to make sure your question got answered, though. So basically, out of the new growth in the budget, the money that's not yet allocated, we want to make sure vocational education has a small piece of that.
It just floors me that. That
Is
doesn't
it a
make any sense.
mandate?
Yeah, can you explain written into 98, if I understand what you're saying right? Written into 98 is a mandate requiring school districts to allocate their funds to a portion of their funds at, what did you say, $800 per student?
So it's,
So,
Yeah.
but here's the point that I wanted to raise.
yeah,
A school district is going to be getting a certain quantity of money. I'm not talking about percentages of this and that, but actual dollars.
yeah.
And it seems to me that the way 98 is written as a mandate to school districts, that the school district has to cut some other program in order to fund the vocational program
Gotcha.
you're talking
Okay.
about.
Okay,
So,
no.
but I presume that's the prerogative of the school district and school boards to say, you know, how are we going to rob Peter to pay Paul?
So it's new, it is additional funding. It's not a mandate, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's additional funding, but it must be spent on vocational ed, whatever works for that particular district. It's new money, but there's parameters to, because otherwise, who knows where the money will go. So it's additional money, but this is the way, otherwise, we're not seeing vocational ed return restored sufficiently.
But how does 98 compel a school district to spend the $800 per student?
Jim, the 98 is, this is Alan from the school board.
Oh, good, yeah.
The 98 doesn't touch what they call the ADM, the adjusted blah blah, that every student, every school district gets about $8,000 per student enrolled. They get 12 to 16,000 if they're a special ed student, that sort of thing. That's a big complicated formula that is run out of the state, out of Salem and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Measure 98 is not touching that. In our school district here, we're going to get the same $8,000 per student as we always got in the past. If 98 passes, the legislature has to look at the increased funding that came in across the state, and out of that money, it has to assign $800 per student to Cottage High School. And
So that'd be
Kennedy
the
High School.
allocation, you guys.
There's no reallocations. We're not touching any of the existing programs. That's why I'm so totally supporting it, and why I got the school board to pass a letter of support for this. It's time we brought businesses and trades back to our babies, and this is going to dump money on all the rural schools, especially in rural Oregon. We're hurting for being able to get our kids interfacing. I'm starting to ramp, so.
Thank you for clarifying that, and I'm sorry I didn't make that clear yet. It's new money, but it has to be specified where it goes so that we finally get these programs restored. So,
But again, I have a kind of a corollary to the question I was
Sure.
asking, and that is, you were giving the examples of the high-tech computer stuff that make more
Yes.
kind of video games or that sort of thing that I think dumbs people down and is causing the decline in the fall of Western
Well.
civilization. But besides that,
hopefully to
Besides
do
that
more
kind
than
of
video
point.
games, hopefully it's to run business, but yeah.
but besides that, what I would like to see included in vocation are many of the kinds of programs that are part of the old traditional 4-H, as well as the kind of techie nerdy stuff.
Absolutely. In fact, in Roseburg, they're trying to expand their agricultural programs, and this would allow them to do that.
And it would,
Yes, yes.
Voc would get
Absolutely. If it's career related, then it counts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
in other words, my case would be not training kids to be video game players, but to become the peasants of the new age.
Right. I think the jobs are not in video game playing, although many students wish they were.
Yeah.
So, sir, you had your hand up, and then over here.
My question really was, what do you mean by vocational? This relates exactly to what he was speaking of.
Yes, yeah.
Are you talking about computer systems, computer sciences? Are you talking about automotive? Are you talking about electrical? Are you talking about welding? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Exactly what do you mean by?
So the state actually has a definition, and we wouldn't change that. And it has a system of assessing the programs and making sure that they're good quality and they qualify. It's just that most kids don't have access to it. And the definition is it job and career related. So it includes all of those things. And there's a list, but they also have a definition, so that doesn't need to be reworked. It's a good definition. So is it job related? So for many schools, it does include the skilled trades and the welding and the shop there, and then I'll get you. And then for other places, they really want to expand their technology training because there's a lot of good jobs and the students are interested. So districts would get to determine.
The technology training and the vocational training is separate. One is on hands use. The other one is mental setting in front of a computer.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
completely different
That's
and
true.
completely
I guess
different funding.
I'd say that they are jobs that you could get trained for right out of high school. And they're jobs you don't need to go to university for. And so, computer coding is considered a job, like a trade nowadays. It's like, some people say it's the new welding.
Yeah, but who is that person? I'd like to meet them in person.
Yeah, I'd like to see a big time tractor.
Well, there's certainly needs for a lot of the skilled trades, absolutely, and we're absolutely supporting that. So, over here there were a couple hands, and then here.
Then me.
The funds coming from the state are either a subsidy or a return of funds or something to the local people. This gentleman right here said that the legislature is required to allocate this new money. Is that a mandate, or can they vote to say, we're not going to follow that this year?
No, it's law. It's law.
And
In
it's a
fact,
mandate?
yes. And I just met with, in fact, Nancy Nathanson from Eugene, who will be the new head of the budget committee of Ways and Means. And I just said, do you recognize what this means? She goes, yes, if it passes, we're not playing a shell game with it. We get this.
They're required to add
$800
$800 to their
per
salary.
high school student. That's
Okay,
correct.
good.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I was going to vote for it, but
Pam and
the
then.
legislature's a toss-up. Who knows about that?
Yeah.
I welcome this. Al and I had some email chats about this, and I think one of the biggest mistakes made was taking the old types of trade classes out of the high schools.
That's right.
But we're talking about a much broader range of skills
That's right.
right now. It's not just auto shop, not just wood shop.
That's right.
So you're going to have multiple classrooms, multiple teachers, that type of thing. Is that all coming out of this $800 per student?
So a lot of districts will have about 2 or 3 of these tracks right now because they know that we still need them. And this would allow them to add 3, 4, 5 different kinds of tracks. Now, the local districts still have to come up with some money, right? And really we find that, and there's also some federal career technical dollars, but it's very, very restricted. So this will allow districts to come up to scale and do more. Does that answer your question? I don't know if Alan wants to speak to it.
The only thing I'd quickly throw in here is it's an incredible opportunity for rural areas like ours because our school district is going to get 800 times, what do we have, 200 kids in the 200 seniors, or 800. So we're going to get $640,000 for Cottage High School, and it's ours to decide how we're spending it. So what I'm going to do from the school board point of view is enlist the Chamber of Commerce right away and enlist all of our local tradespeople and let people know that this is a wonderful opportunity. So how do we as a community want to shape these dollars for educating our babies here in our hometown? So I would like to see us come up with more agriculture training, for instance. I want to train our kids on fixing tractors. We've got a huge bus garage. I want to fix combines over in the bus garage. So with this kind of money, we can come up with ideas like this, and we can chew them out, and we can come up with a solution that a lot of people are feeling invested in.
And the decisions are made locally, so we are talking to chambers of commerce all over and getting their engagement so that they're really useful classes and students can get jobs. I think back there.
I have 2 grandchildren that have gone through a similar program to this in Nevada, and they both started out taking medical language first, medical terminology, I think is what it was classified, and both of them have jobs. They walked out of high school and they had a job immediately because they took this and they're the CNA right off the bat, and all they had to do was take the state test. And they didn't give the state test to them for about 4 weeks after they were out, but they already had jobs on the credentials of the teachers and the way the classes were taught. And every test they took was given to them by a nurse training person that was going to give them exactly what they were going to have to take for the state test.
That's great. Most states do a much better job than
And
Oregon.
it
That's a
totally
good
turned the
example.
grandson around. He's
Nice.
working now with disabled children and has had his first promotion. He's been there 2 years and he's had a promotion and he loves it.
Nice. Thank you. That's a great story. And I think over here they had their hands up and then we'll come back here.
I don't know
Did
whether the other, anyway, no.
Sorry. I think you had a question.
Something you haven't mentioned yet, where in the world are you going to get the teachers to get the money quickly?
So we used to have a lot more of these career and technical education teachers, but now since there's few jobs, there's not a lot of teachers. So as we build the programs, the teachers will come back. Meanwhile, for example, in Salem, they built this great career and technical education center, and you'd like it because they're teaching construction and manufacturing, but also computer design, because it's all connected with construction, but they're doing a lot of the hands-on stuff. They have found people in industry who are, maybe their back has gone bad or they built their business and they're ready to come back and do something different, who are excited to be teaching this. And so we're working with the state to give people provisional licenses and they can get some training. But there's a lot of interest in the business community to expand these skills, but the state just hasn't been anywhere on it. So it's a really important point. We're going to have to expand the workforce and we're already working on it.
It really is, because for instance, we lived in Washington before I was transferred down here, and I taught at Clark College in the evening.
Oh, awesome, yeah.
In the automotive industry, and there's a lot of them different there, fortunately, because I was working for an oil company and did some presentations to the kids on the day lab, and they offered me a job. And I said, I have a job. And he said, yeah, but
In the high school, you
we
mean?
don't have one like this, and we need you there. I said, okay. But I said, he says, do
You can get some good teachers that way.
Experience, that's why it got so goofed up the first time. I know a lot of the guys in town here that were in that program and enthused about it, and they made so darn many restrictions on them that they couldn't do it.
Yeah,
they
so-
all-
Yeah, so there's definitely alternative pathways for people who know how to teach this stuff to become teachers and working on it, because, right, because they're good. Sir, you had a question back there. There's a lot of questions. Sorry, I'm trying to take them in order.
I would like to figure out where all these agricultural courses and all this in the high schools went. There was a lot of them that are gone now.
Yep.
LCC, you don't have any of their cars or anything like that up there.
I mean, it's just the pendulum swung way too far, university only, and we have to restore some common sense to the system. That's, you're exactly right.
Comes back to throwing a kid in jail for doing that. Lose some of the political
Idiocy.
crap they got going now.
So to speak. I agree. So I think you had your hand up for a while. Sorry, I'm trying to go in order, and you're not.
You're doing good though, keeping
It's
track.
hard. So I'm just how I used to be a middle school teacher.
Don't talk too much.
Here, there, and there.
So I graduated from high school in 1963, and
When you were 4 years old.
Thank you.
and I had those vocational classes, and looking back on them, they would have done me absolutely no good.
But everybody's different.
Well, yes, they are.
Say that again?
Those classes would have done me no good today. I mean, the way they taught those classes back then. Now, if I would have had a class where I learned to fix your tractor, or repair a motorcycle, or repair a boat motor, or something like that, I think it would have been very beneficial. But it all depends on how those classes are taught and what is taught.
Sure. I think it's true of all classes.
I have a 2-year
But yeah.
degree in computer science. I haven't worked a day in computer science. So,
Yeah, no, they've got, for sure, like anything, it's got to be well done. I'll tell you this young woman I was talking with about in Springfield, they run a business in Springfield out of that car class, out of that auto class, and they tune up the cars of all the employees, and so the kids really learn how to, you know, collect a bill and make an estimate and all that, so they're learning really useful, so hopefully they're doing it more.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that's,
it's
to me, that's what needs to be done, that kind of classes, and to fix your tractor.
Common sense.
Something more like a traditional apprenticeship program rather than a school district
Yes,
program.
this could fund apprenticeship programs, if that's what the district wants to do. I think you had a
Joy,
question?
how many more questions did you have out there? Because we kind of need to
Oh,
bring this to a close. But that's fine. I just,
How about 1,
I just
2,
have a
3?
question about, you said provisional licenses. Are they doing changes in that? Because we have a son who's a doctor of musical arts and cannot even apply to a high school or an elementary school, even for a part-time position, because he hasn't had the education
Yeah,
courses.
yeah.
And yet, you could teach everything that it needs to be done. Is this something new with the provisional licenses, or is this?
So they used to offer more, and then they restricted it, and I think now they're going to have to broaden it again. And it's really the district kind of has to go to bat if they want to hire that person, as I believe. Is that accurate? Do you know?
Yeah, it's all screwed up. State level education
What you said.
sucks.
Yeah.
But local people are fighting really good fights.
Yeah, fortunately, these would be local decisions. So that's something if you found a district that wanted to hire
It just
him.
seems so strange, because I keep saying, somebody needs a temporary music
Right.
teacher right now.
That's
But
right.
he can't even apply because he
Oh.
hasn't had the ed course.
No, that doesn't make sense to me.
That's so ridiculous.
You had a question, sir, and then back here, and then, how's that?
Then it's
I
like-
want, people haven't had a chance to ask, please.
Yes, I was wondering what criteria do you have that indicates increasing vocational and technical careers will increase the graduation rate?
So actually, and I appreciate that, All of the things that Measure 98 funds are things that are proven, that we have data on. And I don't know if you remember earlier, I said that the kids involved in these programs are statewide. The Oregon Department of Education keeps that data. They graduate 15.5% higher than other kids.
Yeah, but that is such a small amount of people that you're talking about. That
Well,
seems to me that if I was
it's about
watching-
25% of students are involved in that. So it's 25% of high school students right now are taking career and technical education
in Oregon.
in Oregon, about 25% of the students, and it should probably be about 3 times that. So it's actually a pretty big sampling.
No, it is not. Or at least I don't agree with you.
Okay.
That, if I was going to do anything, I would go to see the people who are graduating the most. We're number 47. Why not look at number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and see what they're doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Our in-demand students.
And they are doing more vocational ed, and they're doing more
That's why I
access to
asked you,
college.
you already checked those
Yes,
schools
yeah,
that are
sorry, I
ahead,
probably
and-
misunderstood your question. Yep. Yep. We don't
That's
want
what
to
we
pass
do.
something that isn't proven and isn't going to really move the dial. Thank you for clarifying.
I spent 40 years advising with the high school forestry class out of Pleasant Hill.
Awesome.
And what really killed the program was that the administration sent all the boneheads down there and got them out of the English classes and the math classes. They didn't want to be there either. So it took up the time from the teachers. It had people wanting to learn forestry. And they had to deal with the problem students because they all got moved down the hallway to the forestry class. And I really resented that, the amount of hours and days that I put in volunteering time to deal with people. I just want to face plant in the mud hole.
I agree, you know, I think that we should treat these classes like they're worthy and they're valuable and these are respectful and should be respected occupations.
Starts with administration, and that's what I saw the ruin of forestry class.
It starts with leadership, absolutely. So, so thank you. I know that you're at time, and I hope I answered your questions, and I'm happy to stay around afterwards if people still didn't get all their questions answered. And I just appreciate your thoughtfulness and your digging in, and it's okay, they were hard questions. I know you're at time, but I don't know if you wanted to, you know, you have a school board member here, and maybe you wanted to say anything else.
I just want you folks to realize that if we can pass this measure, I'm going to be coming back to you guys and asking you to step up.
Okay, don't vote yes.